had requested. ¿Estás lista, Mercedes? Super. So we are running out of time, so I will just ask the panelists, and you have 1 minute. I know that I had told you that you had 2 minutes, but 1 minute for the last question, so we can give the floor to the people that are still here in case they want to make some comments, suggestions, suggestions. I'm very in the word mode. Comments or questions from the floor. So the question that I will be doing, and I will be starting with Frank and ending up with Luz, will be, Frank, te pregunto a ti, ¿cuál sería una recomendación?
Frank, what would be your recommendation to move forward in the field of the bisexual person's rights? What would be your recommendation? Microphone, please. Actually, I focused on the importance of doing research. It is important to have evidence to be able to influence the public sphere, the government, and develop public policy. So I said there are reports, there's evidence here and there. In the US, there's a lot more. There might be some in the UK. There's information in the north, but in the south, in the global south, there's a lack of information that is very, very crucial for us. So it is important for us to be able to have that research. With regards to the independent expert on LGBT issues, it would be important to ask in that context to do research, collect data, collect evidence to be able to submit reports at the council level, at the Human Rights Council level.
For advancing the rights of bisexual persons. 1 minute, please.
I don't know if it's strictly one, but I will keep it under a minute. Please just remember that there are a lot of us, that we need bi-specific research so we actually know what's working, what's not working in our situation. And also, please remember that we need bi-specific outreach and programs. If you try to reach the gay and lesbian community and somehow think that's going to take care of the bi community, it will not work.
Student, yes.
So I'm going to continue. Inclusion of all of us is a duty. Exclusion is a failure. So let's not fail. Thank you.
So please don't just think that bisexual persons are something different, that are something special. They seek human rights as any other persons. That is to be protected of violence, to be protected of discrimination, and sometimes please don't be lazy and said gay rights, or say LGBT rights, because the terminology, name, and as Ian said it, data and statistics. Visibility of data, statistics, and be specified issues. Our sexuality has a name, and it's bisexuality part of our identity. Thank you.
Luz.
No asumamos que
Let us not assume that bisexual persons are necessarily included in the LGBTI identity. In research, when you collect data about LGBT issues, please seek data specifically on bisexuals. We are a concrete and very specific group.
Enlightening, at least from my side. So thank you very much for sharing your experiences from the regional perspective and also from the global perspective. Now I would like to open the floor for those of you who might have perhaps questions or comments that want to share with the broader audience. Yes, Cindy.
Thank you very much for all your presentations today. I'm Cindy Nelson from the Permanent Mission of Canada. We are very pleased to co-sponsor this event. A few observations and some questions. I think as international community, and especially here at the UN, we tend to look at LGBTI together. And so I really appreciate this opportunity to speak with you and to learn more specifically about the human rights needs of the bisexual community. So thank you to Ilga for taking the time to organize this event and for us to feature on this specific topic. To Sude, thank you very much. I took your point about UPR. For Canada, raising LGBTI issues in UPR across countries is a priority for us. And so I take your point about not only just talking about LGBTI, but specific on bisexual, including recommendations specific to the bisexual community. One of the reoccurring themes across the presentations, of course, is research and data. And I note in a few communities, North America and Europe, there is some data that is being produced already, not enough. But just wondering if there are any tips or lessons learned in the data that's been collected that you can share with the other parts, regions of the world that are still looking to collect data. If there's some best practices, I noticed, Ian, that you had mentioned specifically about self-identification as being an issue, and just wondering if you could elaborate on that. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Cindy. If perhaps we could pick up some questions or comments, and then at the end we answer all of them. Olmer?
Muchas gracias por darme la...
Thank you for giving me this opportunity. I would like to commend this initiative, and I would like to also congratulate all the panelists for the presentation that they made. They seem to know a lot about all this, and they are very committed to this cause. One issue that I would like to refer to is that when we speak about all these issues, we would also like to ask, we could also ask ourselves, what is it that produces this type of situation? How is it possible that in our everyday societies there's so much discrimination? And this is not only affecting, of course, the LGBT and the bisexuals, but there's also the indigenous peoples, the all types of people with disabilities. So what is it that a society, what makes society be so exclusive with minorities and with people that are different? So we might perhaps study that as well. And also, it would be important to ensure that in this debate, we also refer to what can be done to give more visibility to these issues in Latin America. It would be important to see what the advances, what the achievements have been. There's the Montevideo Consensus. It might be a positive step forward that might that we could capitalize on. There have been step forwards with regards to the recognition of homosexuality, which is already a first step forward, and perhaps just go more deeply into that. Another thing is, how can we strengthen the Montevideo Consensus in order to integrate the bisexual needs and of the community, bisexual community needs in this discussion.
Organizing the side event. I'm Clinton Swimmer from the Permanent Mission of South Africa. I'd like to compliment the whole panel for the very articulate manner in which you have expressed your opinions and also for your courage in doing so. I think it's very much praiseworthy. So my question is Africa. On the panel, you know, in my own country, which has a very progressive approach to these issues, I'm not particularly aware of a narrative or a discourse around bisexuality per se, which in and of itself reveals the challenge. But in Africa particularly, where we're faced with challenges like conflict, poverty, inequality, and some very high cultural hurdles, what do we say? What do you know about the situation in Africa with regard to bisexuality? What is your take on it? And what do you think we need to do? Is it simply the same set of challenges that you're confronting in your respective regions? Or are there maybe some particularly African things that we could take away? Thank you.
Thank you, Clinton. Is there any further comment or question? Okay, so now I'll give the floor to the panelists. Just remember that we have 4 minutes left.
I think one was specifically for me, and that was about research recommendations. This is actually not something I invented. This actually comes from a great researcher in Toronto, Canada, named Jim Faust. And it's that we need longitudinal studies across diverse ethnic, racial, and cultural groups. And we also need to look at what works, what kind of positive interventions work, and what kind of positive life experiences mitigate minority stress for bi people.
Someone else? Sude?
Yes, thank you. Thank you for the comments and recommendations. So about the researchers, I can tell you that we are learning a lot about what has been done, specifically about the language of questions asked. So we are doing some surveys right now, and those questions are leading us to localize, as it said in software language, so not only translate but also localize in our cultural, let's say, language to ask the right and proper question to get the right answers we want to have. So we are learning a lot, but situation is not going to be that much different. It might be more catastrophic, but not that different. What we should do about all these discriminations, I think. For us, our experience, for me, let's say as an Iranian bisexual woman, immigrant, etc., all the intersectionality I'm living every day, is that people are prioritizing love and the right to love. Like, okay, you're Iranian right now, you have to deal with that thing. Why are you caring about your sexual orientation? That is not your priority. So it is very much about the prioritization of love. About the Africa is also a continent with very diverse cultural, culture and governance, basically. And we also are seeing a lot of corrective rapes in Africa, specifically for women who are engaged in sexual interactions with other women. So I think the bisexual movement in Africa is also giving birth to itself, let's say, if this is the word. But the situation is not very different, as we say in global reset. But do not forget that even during the war, people are still bisexual. Even like whatever happens, poor, rich, they are still bisexual. So intersectionality. Thank you, sorry.
Perfect. And I think the question missing about Latin America, who wants, Luz or Frank? ¿Quién la quiere responder? Luz?
Es complicado. Es difícil responder la pregunta de la discriminación.
Well, it is very difficult to answer the question on discrimination because there's so many different types of discrimination. Heterosexuality is the norm, and everything that is outside this category, this white category, is discriminated against because there's prejudice, because there's fear, because people don't know anything about it, and all types of issues. In the Latin American and the Caribbean region, We know that you know that we suffer from machism, chauvinism, and it's a patriarchal society. So this speaks for itself. We worked on a report that reached conclusions that we've shared with you. It will be released on the ILGA site. The report is both in English and in Spanish. So a lot of the information that we've shared today, it will be in the ILGA site. Microphone, please, microphone. Only regarding the situation of Africa. In Luz's report, there's one page about it. It was very difficult for us to contact associations, bisexual persons associations in Africa. But the people that we did contact seem to have the similar experiences. There's invisibility, discrimination because of bisexuality. And apparently, yes, South Africa seems to be the country where there's the most data collected and the most positive experiences were found.
Has a lot of emancipatory potential, and it can help to promote the agenda of respecting the human rights of minorities. So it is a great contribution as a sexual identity and minority identity in the promotion of human rights.
Thank you, Radhika. On behalf of ILGA World, thank you very much for attending this event. We appreciate it, we value it, and we hope that this is a starting point for a new conversation and building bridges. Thank you very much.